Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Black Lodge. I'm David. Drinks whiskey. Hope you are all keeping well on this Saturday night for Saturday night drams. It's been quite a chilly week here in the old UK in the south, and it's staying that way. So I'm a little bit chilly in the Black Lodge this evening. So I'm hoping to warm up a little. And as I say that, I need to remember to turn the heater off so you can't hear it. Who have we got in already? I can see we have Pete Heads in. Good to see you, Frank. Hope you're keeping well. We've got Codger. Good to see you, Codger. Hope you're doing. We've got old PX Woodhouse. Hope you're keeping well. Let's see. Full on theme tonight with a bourbon matured Scotch. It's a cracking combination, as I'm sure we all agree. What is that, Pete Head? What is it you've kicked off with? So, as it says in the title, tonight is a wee recap of a year ago when I was fortunate enough to go to Kentucky. And I say fortunate enough as if someone took me. I went under my own steam. But I was going to talk about that, talk about how that kind of changed my perception of Scotch and in a positive light, and how we can, maybe there's quite a few lessons that I think the Scotch world could learn from the bourbon world that maybe we're a wee bit guilty of not taking on board as it is. There's also quite a few decent bottles to my side that we're going to be drinking tonight. Predominantly, it's all bourbon. I've went to bourbon, a wee bit bourbon crazy, and something a little bit different. But maybe I'll have a malt, a wee Scotch later on. I'm also going to talk through how I planned the trip, what I did logistically, how that impacted us from a budget point of view, what we, what I could have done better if I go and do it again, or if someone's doing it, what I would recommend. So we're going to do that tonight. We're also going to talk about the state of bourbon and what's going to be happening and what you've probably seen in the news, as well as the state of whiskey. There's a lot, it's quite dynamic at the moment, and I think I've seen quite a few YouTube videos where everybody's like boom or bust and everybody's panicking, and I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're going to discuss that later. But to kick us off, everybody that's live in the chat, it would be fantastic to know what's in your glass this evening. I am going to kick off with, I don't know, where am I going to go? I am going to kick off with opening a bottle of, let me see if I can get this right. Yep, there we go. A bottle of the kosher wheat recipe Buffalo Trace. Now this comes in at 47%. But what's really impressive about it is it's pretty much Weller for all intents and purposes. I picked it up out of Harvey Nicks. It's not an expensive bottle. I think it's something about 35 quid. And so I've not really had any time to open it. Obviously, wheat recipe. What makes it kosher? Well, it's certified kosher by the Chicago Rabbinical Council. Probably butchered that. Aged for 7 years. So why not? And it's 750ml, which they're not meant to sell over here, but they do. They really do. We got going on in the chat, let me check. You bear with me to get up to speed. Pete Head, Hazelburn Distillery bottling, bourbon cask, fantastic. But that's super fruity. Yeah, that's fantastic, bright, nice and bright. Codger's on the smoke wagon tonight, uncut, unfiltered, the younger, fantastic. Get this pop. There we go. It's not opened unless it pops. And we're just going to go into the old Black Lodge, Glencairn. Dangerous because you can't really see how much you're pouring. Like there's enough in there for a drink. Anyway, Loch Lomond minis this evening, 12-year-old and 18-year-old. Oh, you can't go wrong with the Loch Lomans, can you? The output of that distillery is just night and day, isn't it? Evening, Craig. What have you got in your glass yourself? Aye, you're right, Frank. You can't pour a dram without opening the bottle. No, I know. Fresh bottle pop. Craig's on a second old fashioned of the night with a Woodford Reserve double oaked. Fantastic. Woodford Reserve for me is an old fashioned bourbon. You get a cracking old fashioned with Woodford. I've never had it with the double oaked, but standard. Mike B, well, just finished a Springbank online tasting and you popped up. Fantastic. Well, Mike, hopefully you're suitably lubricated for this evening, and we're on a bourbon, American whiskey tinged theme this evening. So feel free to crack into the Springbank or join us in that. Scotch Mist. No bourbon, I'm afraid, just bottle killing Glengoyne 21. Somebody has to. No, it's no bourbon exclusive this evening, guys. Drink whatever you fancy. We're going in on this. I'm fully expecting this to taste like Buffalo Trace / Weller. On the nose, it smells like Buffalo Trace. And in the glass, believe it or not, it tastes slightly different to Buffalo Trace. Not quite Weller 12 territory, but not quite Special Reserve Weller. So in the middle somewhere. Quite nice. Quite the vanilla really pushes through on that. Almost like bubble gum. Nice easy night then, Mike. Nice easy night. Springbank 18, Springbank 21, Kilkenny 16, Springbank 10, and I've learnt how to say this, Amontillado. Springbank 12, cast strength, and Long Row 18, still in the glass. Aye, horrible. What a horrible night you must have had getting through that. I'm assuming these were small. Were these like 15mm measures? Or were these you pouring from an extensive collection? And Lowlander, welcome in. Aye, sounds like a tough gig. Aye, somebody has to do it, you know. It's all been a bit hectic for the whiskey world. I think, was that the online tasting? I think I've seen that advertised, and I know that there was a Discovering Whiskey Festival in Bristol today. I saw quite a few people attend that. That looked fantastic. It actually looks like a really nice setup for that. I believe is it the same people that do the Croydon Whiskey Festival? I think there's an association definitely anyway. So that's on. We had last week, there was also, I believe, was it the Inverclyde? I don't know if it was Inverclyde or that, but there was a Scottish festival on. There's a few things that's starting to pick up a wee bit. I was talking to a couple of people that work in some of the whiskey shops in London. January's been dead, like really quiet. And I think everybody's hoping that February, everything picks up a bit. Mike, 1cl measures. God, did you even manage to taste anything? I hate when they do that. They're so small. But fantastic. I think they were good value as well, that tasting pack. I think I've seen that in the email. Tasting. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, as we said, we're going to kind of the theme and topics of this evening. It's not going to be anything too full on. I'm just going to pull up my wee notes app so that I remember my points. Indulge me. But it's quite topical, I think, at the moment. With everything going on in the US, with the new president and these tariffs coming in and what it means. And it was interesting to see that Canada just went and they just cleared the shelves. You're not buying it anymore. And so the Canadian products have been getting pushed more. And I think we mentioned it maybe a couple of weeks ago. It'd be great to get some more Canadian good whiskey over here, because I think we're quite limited in the selection that makes it this far. I don't know if that's due to trade. I don't know if it's due to tariffs or anything like that. So I wonder if there's an opportunity there that maybe can open up. But then you're also seeing, I believe, I wrote this down because I never knew, American whiskey is waiting for the EU to bring back in a 50% tariff at the end of March. So then that'll impact stuff coming over, but we're not in the EU anymore. So then does that mean that we're going to see more, if that comes in, we're going to see the benefit? Because at the moment, Buffalo Trace and stuff, like in Paris, you can walk in to Le Maison de Whiskey and you can pick up a Weller 12 on the shelf for like €40. That just doesn't happen here. I know there's talk that more and more is going to be coming in, and I heard a really interesting thing about Special Reserve being made really widely available in the UK, so maybe that's going to happen. Maybe that will come in that way. Noticed Whiskey Auctioneer flooded with the Fortnum and Mason 107. Yeah, Craig, I noticed that as well. Mine's just still sat in there, and I can get it later on. I was going to put it beside me, but I didn't want the temptation. I am saving that those two single antique 107s when I can crack them open and enjoy them with people. I don't want to crack them open now because I know the temptation will be just to plough through them. But yeah, they were swooped up. I think it's for the people that are flipping or still in the whiskey flipping game. It's few and far between opportunities now. So when stuff like that happens, they're on it like hawks, and it gets cleared out. So you're going to have that, but if it becomes more readily available, I saw that Liam, who is the kind of UK lead for Sazerac for Buffalo Trace, he mentioned last week on his Instagram that the allocation of BTAC and Pappy and stuff is due this week past, and it'll start coming out this week probably. And I just messaged him and I was like, God, you glutton for punishment. The amount of people flooding your DMs. So everybody, if you're into that sort of thing, keep an eye out. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of the usual. I know that Milroy's did it. I've been to that one in the past, and then DRAMS did it last year, where it's like you pay for a ticket and it gives you the right to purchase a bottle, and then you do a tasting of sorts and whatever. So everybody keep your eyes out on that if you're in the London area. I know that some bottles do make their way up the country, and if you've got the local shop relationship, then by all means you might bring me a shout of them. Misspoke there, 2 CL measures, that's better. I've had it before where it's been 1 CL measures. I remember getting a 1 CL measure of like years ago, the King Alexander Dalmore. It's like, what can you really do with that? So in terms of everybody that's watching live in the chat, let me know. I know for a fact that Craig, big bourbon guy, loves his bourbon. But the rest of these, I use predominantly Scotch. Do you dabble? Do you mix and match with American whiskey and bourbon? Or is it something that you don't really bother with? Because it's part of, I'm going to go through why the Kentucky trip and what I picked up and stuff. But maybe the naivety of me was I dismissed, up until that trip, I'd kind of dismissed bourbon a bit, where it had certain profiles and it all not all tasted the same, but it was all very similar profiles. And as I mentioned, like Woodford Reserve I would use for this, and I really enjoyed the Four Roses single barrel. I knew I really liked that, and one of the first bottles of whiskey I'd been gifted before was a Blanton's, and I couldn't quite understand the hype of the Blanton's and that, and I definitely preferred the Four Roses single barrel over the bottle of Blanton's that I had. But I wasn't really well versed, and then I did get the chance to try, well, BTAC stuff, but I was at tasting, and it was like 10 mil at the Milroy's one, and you're sitting there and you're trying to taste George T. Stagg, or you're trying to taste William LaRue Weller, and you're literally like having a tiny sip. You're trying to let it open up in the glass, but you blink and it's gone. So I was going in a wee bit blind, and that was part of the reason why I thought maybe I can go out there and understand this, because there's so much of it. When you go into the liquor stores in America and you just see those aisles of alcohol, absolute aisles of them. And I don't know about you, anytime I go away, I always go to the alcohol aisle and look at what whiskey's available and stuff. And I thought it must be different. Yes, you've got your NGPs and stuff, but I didn't realise like the importance of the mash bill, and I didn't know about, obviously cask is kind of limited because of the nature of what bourbon has to be, but just the finishing element and what they can do and how broad they can go. PX, first love was Buffalo Trace, still love the wheated bourbon, and learnt through disappointment that ryes aren't my thing. Yeah, some ryes are like that. I don't mind the Sazerac rye. I find it quite sweet. I find it almost like Tizer in its sweetness, like a bit like a grenadine sweetness in there. Codger, I've got about 10 bottles of bourbon at the moment. Interested, but not as obsessed with it. Yeah, I pick up bottles of bourbon that interest me, and so I ended up, I've got a bourbon cabinet that stands separate to everything else. It's not something I actively pursue, but there's bottles that will pique my interest and stuff. I still, when I'm like people going to the States or coming back, say, oh, what can I pick you up? There'll always be one or two that I'll ask for. I'm on the British Bourbon Society Facebook page and stuff, but I'm not. I'm Scotch whiskey, first and foremost. Peathead, only Scotch and highly prefer bourbon matured as minimum grape pollution as possible, please. Lowlander, I usually drink Scotch. Oh, let me move that up a wee bit so you can see that. I usually drink Scotch. I have a 20cl cadence bottle of Heaven Hill and SNW bottles of Balcones. Otherwise, that's it for me regarding American whiskey. Yeah, and those two, they're good places to start because I've got, what SMWS bottle of Balcones was that? Because I've got one over there and it was fantastic. It was only 3 years old. And I was dishing it out to tons of people. And then the Heaven Hill is great to have. It's because it's just a mainstay, but the whole history of Heaven Hill, again, I went blind. Didn't know about the Heaven Hill fire, tornado type thing, and how it destroyed, and how the pursuit of old Dusties in Heaven Hill, and stuff like that. And I managed to pick up an old bottle at auction that was for the Japanese market that's technically an old Dusty, where apparently because the fire at Heaven Hill destroyed everything, it destroyed the yeast strain as well, so they were never able to recreate pre-fire Heaven Hill. So pre-fire Heaven Hill is a big term that gets flung about a lot. Right, I live in the States, so enjoy all it takes a whiskey, love a good bonfire, American single malt. Yeah, and congratulations on the designation of American single malt status, which was a big deal. I saw, obviously, the Whiskey Tribe and really led a big push on that, and Balcones and people like that. There's a lot of American single malts. I believe the other one is, what's the other one that's coming? Oh, come to me. They went and visited them. It'll come back to me, but there's loads. It's fantastic that it's now got that. I would say that unnamed rye is very likely to be MGP, which is a huge industrial whiskey manufacturer, where you can designate, it's like white labelled whiskey for loads of brands. So normally if whiskey's coming out of Indiana, it's from MGP. Not to say it's bad, but it's a massive sourcing opportunity for brands. But they've been in the press recently because I think their CEO lied about demand to people, and that caused all manner of issues. Scotch Mist, I tend to stick to Scotch with the occasional dabble into Indian Irish. Not sure about bourbon, as I have in my head it's not as varied in taste. Yes, exactly, I was the same. Until it's the same as anything, until you dive into it and you kind of do it, and it's difficult here because of the cost. Whereas if you're over there and you go to a bourbon bar, there's tons, but there's some great, across the UK, there's some really good bourbon bars that have amazing stock. Surprisingly, like one of the best I've been to was in Blackpool, of all places, in a B&B. And there's a video of that online from when I went to Blackpool, and the selection they had and the price was just unbelievable. Codger, yeah, on that page, I saw that they had the New Riff tastings this week, just past. I couldn't make any of them, where you could blend your own New Riff, and New Riff is actually coming up when I talk about the trip. Just seeing Lowlander's comment there, kind of threw me. Ooey gooey molten chocolate. That's not the one I had. I'll find out the name of the one I had, but it was really good. It was really good. Giving the Green River Foolproof another go. Hopefully opened up. Fingers crossed. And again, on that BBS page, apparently Green River's coming to the UK this year, which I'm excited about because I really like their stuff. Okay, so that pour was absolutely hee-haw. Very minimal. Very minimal. But it's no sprint. It's no sprint this evening, guys. So, to kick us off, firstly, I'm going to have another wee pour. I'm going to go in for this Four Roses single barrel, but this is the Four Roses single barrel. Let me just zoom in on that. This is the barrel strength. Can I get that in focus? There we go. Barrel set strength. But this is one of 10 recipes that they do. And why that's important is on the side here, it says Four Roses recipe selected. I picked the OESO, which is a 20% rye mash bill, rich fruit. It's been specially selected by the master distiller, Brent Elliott. It's 9 years, 8 months old. It's super fruity. I wanted something super fruity of the selection. Mouth coating flavours of bright cherry and dark honey fading to a soft long finish. And they had loads of them when I got there. And it's in the Kentucky videos. I go on a video around it. And I picked this one specifically. Some people will pick ones, I think the OESQ and stuff, where the percentage is really high. They want a really high proof. I wanted to go for something super fruity because we don't get super fruity bourbons over here. There we go. Right, let me see if I can see what I'm doing here. That looks like a better pour this time. But as I mentioned, Four Roses single barrel that you can pick up here, I think for about £40, £45. To me, pound for pound is my favourite bottle of bourbon that you can pick up in the UK easily. The quality is always consistent. It's always just a nice drink. It has, I wouldn't say it's as sweet and full forward as a Woodford. It kind of restrained a little bit, but there's a lovely body to it that I really enjoy. So we're going to go for this before we dive in to... Yeah. So fruity, red like jam. If you can imagine like a strawberry jam, cherry pie, like that kind of vibe. I've tried several American whiskies, but they often high cask influence and the high grain content take me back to Scotch every time. Not a single grain Scotch fan either. Yeah, it's one of those things, Frank, isn't it? Where it's finding it, but it's having the time and the opportunity to try an extensive range. And that's one of the benefits of when you go over to the States. You can get any bars and you can get conversations with people and have them guide you. The same way that if an American comes and sits in a bar and you're sitting there or I'm sitting there or any of us are sitting there, we can guide them on a Scotch journey by asking questions and probing them. Evening, Alan. Thanks for joining. Let us know what you've got in the glass, if you've got anything. They did, Mike. I had the chance to pick one up, but I wouldn't have fit it in my case, if I'm honest. So I just left it. I really wanted to try it, though, and it's still on my hit list of things that if someone's going over there and they've got an empty bit of space in the case, or they're coming over and they can find one for me. They had it at the distillery. And I think it was about $100, $110. But you had all those recipes. And I've seen that they've released 4 of those recipes, kind of more mainstream in the States. And they've made their way to hedonism over here. Hedonism wines. But they're asking money that's just makes it prohibitive, let's say. Right, let me see. So I'm going to dive into the Kentucky trip last year and how it came about. And I was trying to do it all fancy and graphics and stuff, so bear with me as I press this button that it should pop up. There we go. So let's start at the beginning. So this came up as an idea in autumn 2023. I couldn't quite pin exactly when. But it started with Springbank. So I turned 40 last year, and me and a couple of friends said, well, why don't we do the Springbank experience? We put our names down for the Eat, Sleep, Dram, Repeat when the waiting list stopped So for anybody that doesn't know, Eat, Sleep, Dram, Repeat is 3 days, 2 nights in Campbelltown at the Springbank Distillery. They put you up in a guest house. Your food is covered. You kind of have like a housekeeper. There's a little bit of a, from what I gather, an honesty bar with some drams and stuff. And then over the course of the days, you go and you tour the distillery and you work a wee bit of the distillery. And you get to try stuff and that. And we thought that'd be great fun, but it was only valid. They could only do it in February. And our birthdays, me and my friend's 40th were in March. And exactly, Mike, pay attention now. I had to do it this way because otherwise I would lose track. But so we put our name down, and then spaces are coming up, and then they sent us a cost, and the cost of it was £950 to spend 3 days in Campbelltown in February. And that's just there. That's not spending money. That's not dram money. That's not bottle money. That's not transport to and from Campbelltown. And I was like, oh, I really don't know. And then the big brash American himself, Bruzel, he was doing a video. A video has popped up on YouTube. And he was doing barrel picks with someone, and they were in Kentucky and they were in Louisville, and he was talking about how Louisville's a weird place for there because you can walk about places and there's all this whiskey stuff just walking. You just walk. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute, let me have a wee look at this. So then we move on to looking at researching flights. And I discover that I can get flights to Louisville from London for 500 quid. And then just after that, it's Black Friday, and the 21C Museum Hotel, which is really famous in Louisville, and it's got a big statue of David out it. It's got an amazing bourbon bar in it. They had this Black Friday sale, and an American friend of mine said to me, oh, my friend's been there, you should stay at the 21C. And I'd looked it up, and it was 330 quid a night to stay. And I was like, absolutely not happening. And then when I looked it up, it was £72 a night during Black Friday, and I could cancel it. So I just booked some days just to hold them. And then we were in here in December, and a few of us were talking about it, and we had a few drams, and they were like, yep, we'll book it tonight. And so when I packed up in here and had a few drams in me, I just went up and booked my flights. And that was it. And so my flights and accommodation, because we ended up flying back from Nashville, and I upgraded myself to premium economy because I thought I needed 2 cases. Flights and accommodation came to, it was $550 plus like $350. So I was about just under £1,000. So it was 50 quid more to do that trip than to do Campbelltown. So that's where that started, and that's where it came from. But I did it all, and then I was like, right, I'm booked. I'm going in a couple of months' time. I don't really know what I'm going to do. I knew Louisville had whiskey places. I knew that the bars would be good, the scene would be good. And at this point, the friends that said they were coming just weren't committing. So I was like, have I just committed to going here myself? So it was a bit of panic. So I started to look at like, what's the typical weather like? What kind of driving distance do I need to do? Because I'd never driven in America before, so I was going to have to drive and get a car and do that sort of thing. So what I did was I obviously did a lot of researching. And where I researched, so where I found out how to do all this was YouTube. Did a lot of YouTube videos. I tried not to spoil myself, so I didn't go too deep into tours of that, but I looked at what tours there were and what we could do. I researched the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. I looked, was Louisville a good place to be based, or should I have went to Lexington? I looked into what tours I could do, or if it's better to just have the car. Reddit was fantastic. The amount of information on Reddit and the amount of kind of reviews and trip summaries and all that. So if you're ever doing it, definitely get in there. And then Instagram. I looked on people's stories. I asked questions on it. I looked at hashtags. I just kind of went through the lot. And when I kind of gathered all this together, I started with Google Maps. And I just started dropping pins on everything and marking it. And what I did was I was able to build out this kind of comprehensive picture of Louisville and all the surrounding areas and where all the distilleries were, and then work out time and driving distance and all that kind of stuff, because I was going to have to drive there. And then I assigned days and said, right, on this day I'm going to go over this way. I'm going to head towards Frankfurt, or on this day I'm going to head towards Bardstown. And then I also, as a kind of courtesy, because I was going to be bringing the camera, I emailed. I got one response back from all of them, or two responses, sorry. Got one response back from Bardstown, because my Bardstown ticket was sorted by a wonderful man at Bardstown who's in the British Bourbon Society, and he just happened to post, like, just after I'd booked, if anybody's ever in Bardstown and wants a tour, I'll sort you out. So we got that sorted, and I'd emailed them and said, is it okay to film? They said, yeah, just don't film the whole thing. And then I emailed Glens Creek Distillery, and they were very kind to then. That turned into a whole, I'd bought the ticket, but it just turned into a whole afternoon with Dave, the head distiller, owner, founder of the distillery, just from that email. So it's definitely worth just reaching out to speak to people when you're kind of doing this mad adventure across the country, because it really is different. But then obviously I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, well, what do I want to achieve out of this? Because it's a trip of a lifetime. I had less than a week. I wanted to make videos. That was the main driver. I wanted to go and experience this, but I wanted to capture as much as possible. I wanted to meet people, bourbon passionate people that were as obsessed with bourbon as what I am with Scotch whiskey, and to understand the why and what gateway, and as we've said, like, what are good bottles to try and what's overrated, and that. I wanted to get schooled on the ways of bourbon and how does it differ. I knew how it differed to Scotch in the makeup, but then how does all these mash bills and how does all that come together in such a way that it's the dominant spirit over there. Tequila's giving it a run these days, obviously. But then I also wanted to have great times with my friend. So I ended up, my friend JP, John Paul, he came along. He wasn't missing it for the world. He's not a whiskey guy at all. And for him, it was great seeing it through his eyes, because here's a guy that doesn't know anything about how they make whiskey, never mind bourbon, how they do it over there. And he's just really enthusiastic. So it was great. What I would change, so if any of you guys out there watching this are like, I want to go to Kentucky from the UK or from Europe, I say go direct. Now by that I mean, and I spelled Cincinnati wrong, so you'll have to I've spell check that. I flew from London to Chicago and then transferred Chicago to Louisville and got there in the evening, and that was fine. And it was great because we managed being there that night and all the consequences of that, which you can see in the videos. Fantastic. But I would fly into Cincinnati, technically Ohio, but it's also northern Kentucky. And right at like 20 minutes away from the airport is New Riff and a giant liquor store called, I believe, Party Source. Party Source and New Riff were owned by the same person, but then he had to sell it up to keep his license for New Riff, so then the employees bought Party Source. And it's just a huge liquor superstore with an amazing whiskey selection. I wanted to go. We ran out of time. We couldn't go. So I would do that, and then you drive south into Louisville and Bardstown and Lexington, and you can kind of work it that way. That would be my number one tip. Secondly, I had to drive everywhere, which meant smelling a lot of DRAMS, like sticking my tongue in it, and then that was it. It meant I could go where I wanted to go, but I would really advise getting a tour. So maybe get a car, go a couple of places for a day or two, and then get on a tour and kick back and enjoy yourself, because the amount of tour buses we saw, it's big business out there. They were all having a fantastic time, especially at the end of the day when we were at distilleries. They looked like they'd had the best time. So I would absolutely say do that. It's you're kind of restricted because it's an organised tour of where you go and whatever, but you wouldn't be disappointed. Plan ahead. When I went to book Buffalo Trace in the December for the February, There was only like a couple of spots left on the most basic tour, and you can get amazing tours if you book in advance. And you can get the tour with Freddie, the really famous worker over at Buffalo Trace, and do all that. I had no time for that. And then some other ones I wanted to do were sold out already, and they were paid tours. The Buffalo Trace ones are free, but even some of the paid experiences were sold out. So the earlier you book it and plan it, same as anything, the more opportunity you'll have. Definitely do more craft. Try and get out there. There's more craft places popping up, which is fantastic. The one, I've got a bottle here of Pursuit United, which is from the Bourbon Pursuit guys, Bourbon Pursuit podcast, who now make whiskey and stuff like that. They've opened a new place in Louisville. But I went to Glens Creek and I had the most amazing afternoon in a small craft distillery. And the passion and the enthusiasm you get from that. And you see it on Whiskey Tube when you can see them. Thanks, Lowlander, for staying awake. And basically, it's the same. I would say it's the same as whiskey. You want to get Scotch whiskey, you want to get into the smaller distilleries, because you go to the big industrial ones and it's just, bit death by PowerPoint, but death by presentation. Whereas the smaller ones are really infused and want to give you more of it. And then I would say more bars. We just ran out of time to go to some of the amazing bars. We found a couple of amazing bars by chance. But there's a huge bar scene over there, and just to sit and talk and engage with more people, that would be genuinely, I would love more time to do that. I didn't even mention the food, Mike, but yeah, there's great restaurants. We were meant to go to this amazing Cuban one, and then I ended up at the House of Bardstown secret event thing instead, so we had to give that up. But yeah, that I would say that's pretty much the long and short of it. It was definitely an experience that I would never, I don't regret what we did. We were very loose with it. We ended up, if you've watched the series, fantastic, you'll know this. If you've not, please do make the effort to watch it, because the stuff that happened on that trip was mad. Like, to meet the people we met, the serendipitous chain of events that just kept happening, like, I will never forget. And it's just bizarre. You couldn't make it up. And we got to see Toto and Journey on a Saturday night in downtown Louisville, so you can't beat that. Yeah, I'm going to scroll back up through some of the comments here. Mike, the Bourbon Trail is amazing. Something that everyone that loves whiskey should do. Absolutely. And their Bourbon Trail is so much better than the single malt trail, which is like 7 or 9 distilleries in Speyside. Theirs is actually like Kentucky, this, and you get a stamp, and you can get like some free gifts at the end of it and stuff. Lowlander, yep, I appreciate that, Lowlander. Glad you managed to make it through it. Hopefully it wasn't too long for you. Presentations are only interested if you are interested. Therefore, I conclude I am not interested in my work. Well, yes. Dustin, welcome. Glens Creek is awesome. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. I've got 2 bottles of Glens Creek liquid up there that I'm trying to eke out. But every time I do something about bourbon, I pull them out. And I've not pulled them out tonight. But I'll probably end up pulling out one of them, because it's a fascinating story. Given you were driving, did any offer drivers DRAMS? So what we did was, no, we never got the chance of drivers DRAMS. I just had to pick and choose what I could smell and taste. So when we did the Buffalo Trace one, I literally smelled it, but it was like a special reserve. It was Blanton's. I think Blanton's. There was a couple other ones. I'd had them before, and I just gave them to John Paul and said, "Do you have them?" I did have their bourbon cream with root beer mixed, but you're talking about a thimble. Glens Creek, we were there for the afternoon. I did have a dram or 2 there, but I was very conscientious and a lot of water and food and stuff, and I was okay. Didn't go mental, thankfully. Then when we went to some of the other distilleries, it was just a case of calling it and going, I'm not going to be able to drink these here, but can I get these in Louisville when we stop? So like at Bardstown, I knew there was a Bardstown experience right next to the hotel. So I could go in there and get the same stuff, and I'd asked them that, and they said absolutely. On like all the main brands, I all have stores there. Four Roses, I could pick up. I got my own stuff, so it was kind of conscientious in that way. I didn't sign up and pay for tours, or maybe they might have offered that, because we were trying to just hit numbers for me to go in and maybe pick up some bottles and stuff. So I've got a video that is my bottle haul video from when I came back. So we kind of did all that, but I think some of them do. Again, Reddit would be your friend there. Just if you search Drivers DRAMS Bourbon Trail Kentucky and Reddit, it will come up. You'll definitely get some answers there. Alan, do you plan to do it again with the Learn Still Fresh in Mind? I would love to do it again, Alan, to the point where this week, Bourbon and Beyond, which is a huge music festival they have in Louisville, published a lineup. And my jaw dropped, and I was like, oh, can we make this work? And I messaged John Paul, and I was like, look at this lineup. And I was thinking with my wife, because she loves Americana, she loves country music, and I would love to take her there. She's not a drinker, really, so it wouldn't be the whiskey scene, but it combines, it's got bourbon bars at the festival and all this. So I looked into, try to see what that noise is, it's an airplane. We looked into all that stuff. The lineup, if you've not seen it, Ringo Starr's playing, but you've got like the Waterboys, then you've got like Alabama Shakes, you've got it's a very it's just a TV and the radio. It's very diverse, Iron and Wine, but it's not diverse at all. But you'll know what I mean. It's a very broad range of guitar music. So I would love to go back, but it's a week after. That's the weekend after the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, which I would love to go to. I do have vouchers and air miles and stuff, and I would love to take my wife over there and just do it with her and enjoy the experience. Plus, because she's not a giant drinker, maybe she'd be really nice and do a bit of the driving. But if not now, I will definitely someday be back on that tour. It's fantastic. Mark, good evening. Thanks for tipping the Ben Rinnes. It's a banger, yes. The Ben Rinnes 13 Signatory 100 is fantastic, and I've been going on about it for a while. Lowlander, I really enjoyed watching your Kentucky series and the effort you put into making the videos, considering you were on holiday. I really appreciate that, because I made them for me. At the end of the day, those videos were for me. And it was more along the lines of, what would I enjoy watching someone do? And I planned out, you can see the difference in quality. The first day or two, I had shot lists. I knew what I wanted with the car shot to start and all this stuff. And then I thought, right, when I get there, I'll write down a list on that. And you can see the quality go from planned and quite good to just like me clinging on for dear life as I was trying to recover, because we just kept finding ourselves in amazing situations, especially in the evenings. After watching Bruzo for a while, the lottery allocation, state-owned stores, etc., it's like looking for Springbank in different states. Yeah, it's mad, and it's mad how each state has very strict laws. Mike will be able to speak to that, being American over there. Strict laws and strict allocation and how they do it. Like you go across the river. Indiana has a different allocation to Kentucky, and it's right across the river. You've got Ohio State, and you see that in the Bruzo videos where he goes to certain states and they just have plenty full of stuff. And then others, like I know that I've got friends that have been to Manhattan and stuff. There's just no point trying. It's like going into central London and picking up a bottle of Pappy and it's like 1,200 quid. You can try pretty much anything you want in one of the many bars in Louisville. And the prices and decent by the pour. Yeah, and even the liquor stores. The name of the one I went to escapes me. We went on this Saturday afternoon. It's a really famous liquor store. Evergreen Spirits in downtown Louisville. They have bars in them. And you can sit at the bar, and giant menu, and they've got everything. And it's all priced really well. I did find it weird when you went to the giant liquor barn and stuff in like the retail parks on the freeway, and they had bars in them, and the only way you get there is by driving. There's people sitting there. I did notice that there was no cameras anywhere outside or in, so just taking a guess of that. Look, God, I love the videos of you and GP getting invited to wild parties. That experience was unbelievable. And big shout out to JP as well, because JP puts that energy out there. I'm not one of these mad believers in the universe and all that and affirmations, but we put out and we got back. And by put out, I mean we put out positive energy. We were really friendly to people. We had conversations where conversations came up. And that first night is where that party the next night and everything just snowballed from there, where I sat down in a seat. The barmaid said, "Oh, that's the wrong seat." I moved. I said, "I'll move." She said, "No, I'll move the guy that's sitting there. He's at the bathroom to this seat." The guy sitting there turned out to be a journalist from Rolling Stone magazine. We only found that out because I asked the barmaid about bands from Louisville. John Paul works in music. He got talking to him. Turns out he's in town for the launch of the House of Bardstown event with Bardstown Bourbon. And he's like, "Get you on the list." And that was it. And Garrett is still, I'm still friends with him on Instagram. He's a fantastic journalist. He just had his first front cover this week with the Black Keys. So he's doing fantastic. And it's just, when you're out there, and I think everybody was so hospitable because they knew we'd made an effort to be there. And I think it's similar in Scotland. I know that when people used to come into the bar I was working in Glasgow and they'd come from a place, people would just be naturally warm to them and friendly and want to help them out. Might be Evergreen, yes, it is. Fantastic spot. Yeah, that was the one just up and round from Angel's Envy, opposite the Cuban restaurant, the big yellow building. Did you get a lot of good tips from whiskey tubers? I noticed it's bourbon night when you were singing at the karaoke. Everybody was lovely. Chad and Sarah were really nice. I think by that point we'd had quite a few at that House of Bardstown, and I didn't mean to alarm them, but my choice of phrase would have been better, where I'd walked up to them and the first thing I said to them in my broad Scottish accent was, "You're the reason I'm here." And they looked at me with just, I remember the eyes, and I was like, "Oh, no. Sorry, let me roll this back. I make YouTube videos. I'm not invited to this for that purpose, like you guys, but I make YouTube videos." And I was inspired, which I was in part, when they went to Scotland and it was bourbon enthusiasts going to whiskey country. And I thought, how fascinating would it be if a Scottish person went to bourbon country and did from a malt whiskey point of view and that. And we got talking and they asked if I knew Roy Aquaviti, and I said, "Oh, I've messaged him, we've met once or twice, and he knows who I am," and etc. And they said, "Oh, great." And they made me get a selfie with the two of them. So John Paul took the picture and they sent it. Now, bear in mind, this is at like 10:30 at night in Kentucky. So I would say it's about 3-4 in the morning, UK time. And they sent it to him then, and I just remember laughing. And still to this day, I've never spoke to him about this, but I always wondered if he just saw that and just went, "How the fuck is he there? What is going on here?" But he was great. A couple of others, the bourbon enthusiast, he was fantastic, lovely man. In terms of tips and stuff, it was Sarah from It's Bourbon Night that put me onto Green River. And she said, value wise, make sure you try that. But they were all a really nice bunch. It was really funny. Yeah, it was. It was fantastic. It was just brilliant. Justin's House of Bourbon was on the list, but it just ran out of time. Even though it was round the corner, we just ran out of time. We just didn't have enough days. And then on the Sunday, we were driving to Nashville. And we were kind of up against it because we were trying to get there before night time. And then on the way, my friend JP's, one of his favourite films is Elizabethtown. I've never seen it, but it's set Kentucky, Elizabethtown. And on the way, it was Elizabethtown. So we took a detour there. We took a detour to Glasgow, Kentucky, that always used to pop up when I was filling in forms back in the early internet days. And on the way, when we got to Elizabethtown, we went into a liquor store, and then I checked my phone and our flight had been cancelled the next day, and so we had to sort all that out. But the whole trip was just brilliant. We had the best time. Came back with great stuff. I've got behind me, let me see if I do this right. If I go here, just hanging right there is my custom Louisville Slugger bat. There used to be one in Milroy's from Michter's, which is directly across from it. I got my own customised bat for Drinks Whiskey. I got a handful at Michter's, cast strength. I got my little book from Jim Beam. I got my 4 Roses. I had brilliant time. Absolute brilliant time. So long and short of it is, if you want to go, just do it. Just find a way. For the cost, the total cost, obviously spending money and stuff comes different. But the experience and the fact that Springbank's still there. Springbank's still up the road for me. With the way the world changes and with these tariffs and everything that's coming in, we never know what's around the corner. If you can get you can get cheap flights to Cincinnati. I have checked. There's surprisingly not a lot of demand for people flying from London to Cincinnati. So you can get there easy enough. From Cincinnati, it's a couple hour drive. So I would highly recommend it. Do it. Weather-wise, it is like tornado series season. At this that time of year, going into the summer, it's funny driving and you just see the tornado signs on the road. How many bottles you bring back? I brought back enough bottles that fall within my duty-free allowance. That's what I'm going to say between me and John Paul. But I think I brought back, I want to say maybe 12, 13. I took over the blow bags and a pump. How I managed, I had to buy a case at a Walmart, big second case. And then John Paul put some in his bag for me as well. But I was buying bottles that I just couldn't get here. And then I was texting friends when I was in places going, should I pick this up, should I not? So I've got, as I said, I picked up, got this. Like that. The Pursuit United. This was the Oak Collection. We were talking to the rep in Evergreen that day, and I tried this, 54%, and it's a blend that was fantastic. You can't get this in the UK. I picked up Heaven Hill. I picked up Larceny Barrel Proof, which eventually made its way over here. But I'm talking about like 55 quid it cost me. I think it's like 100 here, 90. I picked up, as I said, the 4 Roses. Picked up some of those Glens Creeks. I've got a single barrel select Elijah Craig from Glasgow, Kentucky, which has got pride of place in there. I've got my Knob Creek 12 to open. I've got that little book, the Michter's. Yeah, I think that was the case. And I think what I want to move on to now is what we, as Scotch, and what the Scotch trade could learn is, and I mentioned the Bourbon Trail. What was interesting about Louisville was in downtown Louisville, they're not making the whiskey, but they have brand stores. They have experiences. They have like a distillery experience where you can try and taste, and there's bars and that. And I'm just thinking that the only thing we have in Scotland is like that Johnny Walker experience. It doesn't need to be that that rich and luxe. It can literally, why don't they open stores? Why don't these big brand, like whiskey brands, have these bars? Like if you've got a couple of brands, or like, I just don't understand it, why we don't do it, because the amount of tourists that go through Glasgow and Edinburgh, that's where the majority go through. And what, they need to get in a bus and go 3, 4 or 5 hours to go and drink a whiskey, and then they get there and then it's overpriced, and then they're going to have to pay more for the bottle of whiskey at the distillery than they can get it online. But there's just so many factors in it that none of it makes sense. And I do wonder, from a business guidance point of view, what the Scotch Whisky Association does. Because the lobbying hasn't been effective with the taxation. So tax is up. They're not really helping the biggest export product that we have, pretty much, outside of the oil industry and stuff. So many people are employed in it. Here's opportunity to create jobs. Is it because Scotland has an aversion with this alcohol, that like minimum pricing, and alcohol is so terrible in Scotland? I've lived in other countries where the drinking's been ridiculous. I lived in Korea and I'd step over people on the way to work on a Tuesday, Wednesday morning. Businessmen just passed out, blackout drunk. That's what they would do. We have a lot of problems in the UK, but I think that's over-egged. But imagine like Sucky Hall Street in Glasgow, if you know it, it's a bit of a dump at the moment, and they're trying to regenerate it. Why not put a couple of whiskey places on there? Oh, it might attract the wrong person. No, it's no. There's whiskey bars in Glasgow. Like, you'll attract the right person. You know, you'll attract people that will seek it out. Put a couple of brand ambassadors in it, upskill some people, show them how casks are made. Like, there's so much you could do with a little bit of investment. And at the moment, you've got Edrington, headquartered in Glasgow. You got White Mackay, headquartered in Glasgow. I'm sure there's other one, Diageo in Glasgow. You could, these brands could open experiences there, so that the people that can't make the journey to Speyside for Macallan, for example, could do something there in Glasgow. And then you've got the local distilleries. You've got Glasgow. You've got Clydeside experience. That's what I'm talking about. The Clydeside experience is great. That's been made for tourists, and it works. You go to Auchentoshan, it's alright, could be better. Glengoyne is good, but it's just getting out there. And then I've literally just seen Alan's comment there. I went to Glengoyne Nottingham, hand pour was 200 quid. Exactly. That's mental. It's mental. We don't help ourselves. When you're over there, I'm just talking about that, the mixers there. The other thing I found was the lack of snobbery, which we're guilty of a lot of the time. Sorry, I'm going to need a drink for this rant. Oh, it's lovely. The Americans don't care how you drink it. Where they'll start is they'll say, do you want a pour? And this is in downtown Louisville. So I'm like, I'm going to have a flight. So I'm in Old Forester. I'm going to have this flight of 3 different drams. John Paul's like, I don't want any neat whiskey. So he gets a cocktail. I can't remember what cocktail he got, but he loved it. But there's no, it's like, yeah, right, so you want it neat? No. Do you want it with ice? No. Do you want a cocktail? Do you want us to mix it? Yep, cool. If you don't want a cocktail, they're like, do you want it with Coke? All they care about is getting that drink in your hand and you paying for it. And then you leaving going, I liked that. Let me buy a bottle. And that's the end game. Shift product. Get it into the hands of people. Let them drink it. We are very precious. We are very, very precious about it over here. And I just worry that sometimes that preciousness just kind of doesn't help us, you know. And we just need to bring a bit of like fun back into the game, because I think that would make such a difference to the whole Scotch industry. You imagine the amount of jobs we could get going. People started just enjoying themselves with the whiskey experience instead of thinking it's an old man's drink. But that's just a rant. But it was fascinating to see that kind of craft. The craft meets the sales. Americans are great at selling, you know. So we just need to deal with it. Kids now have a blend your own experience, Campbelltown. Yes, we need more of these. Doesn't it need to be in Campbelltown? That's what I'm saying. It does not need to be in Campbelltown. Yes, it's the home of it, but bring it a bit closer. Like, do one in Edinburgh. You've got the Cadenhead shop. Find a unit close by of that where you can do like an experience where you can maybe examine a cask. Maybe they've got a proper, like, you put in the copper dog and you pull out and you do it, like, you know, all that kind of experience would be fantastic, and it would entice people in. People love that. We ask a lot of people, when you look at that malt whiskey trail, it's like in Speyside up to Elgin and down and whatever. You need to get up there first. It's a hell of a way to go. You know, there's stuff on the doorstep. Bring it to us. Bring it, and by us I mean to the masses, the population, where it is. Buffalo Trace have done it in London. There's a Buffalo Trace store experience in London. I'm fortunate enough to be pals with Kyle, the manager. And I made a video when I went and did the PR thing and got to do a tasting and all that of amazing bourbons. That's exactly it. They see the point in doing it. That's how you grow your brand. That's how you shift bottles. That's how you stand out from others. And Scotch whiskey is just not grasping the opportunity at the moment, and that's what worries me. That's what really worries me. But what can you do? You can go online and just rant about it like I'm doing right now. Must be room for more collaboration venues, a bit like Scotch Whisky Experience. Yes, put one in Glasgow. There's the Scotch Whisky Experience in Edinburgh, which can be a bit diddly-dee because you're next to the castle and stuff as well, even though you've got a cracking pub just diagonally across from it. It's great for whiskey. But Glasgow's got none of that. It just boggles my mind. It's such an opportunity. The amount of football traffic that goes through. Mike, really appreciate you joining. Thanks for joining in post Springbank. Appreciate it. And just picking up on what Alan's saying here about the in my head, you make the effort to visit, you should actually be getting something special for a good price. Yes, you should, and it should be subsidised. You should be able to pick up something amazing on the cheap or at value. Glen Murray do this, and it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic what they put out at their distillery. They've got I want to say a 20-year-old, is it? I saw the other day, and it's 95 quid. How can you beat that? Lowlander, does the smoke machine going to signify some techno and drams are coming? Don't know what you're talking about, mate. What smoke machine? What smoke machine is that? Let me see. What did I do? Like that. There you go. There's a mini disco happening round the corner. How did I turn that off? Oh God. What have I done? There we go. If you didn't join in last week, my wife got me a smoke machine for Christmas, and I finally worked out. Wait, you see the remote? Look at this. What in the absolute James Bond is this? Actually, imagine I'd forgot that. Like I put that in my pocket and I'm going to an airport or something. Oh, that's the end of this. Similar to the famous golf course, charge top whack to tourists while we play in the local. Yeah, and it's silly, man, and it's no fair. Not near the Johnny Walker Experience, Lowlander. Next to the Scotch Whisky Experience on the Royal Mile is I'm going to butcher how you pronounce it. The Ensign Yurt, which is great. Good lunch as well. Good pub food. I've read Glen Murray's hand pours are meant to be really good value for money. Yes, they are. They are. I've been fortunate enough to try a couple that some friends have had. The Glen Murray are making really good supermarket whiskey as well. The Twisted Vine bottling was fantastic. Fair play to them putting it out, even though it was only 40%. It was good. You know, it kind of held its own. I don't need to do that. The Imperial March comes on at that point, Alan, as I walk in. And then I just get pointed to the spare room after this. The likelihood is this: I'm actually broadcasting to my bedroom right now. There's a good chance my wife's got this on and she's fell asleep. Instead of chance of one more tune, there'll be chance one more dram at the end of the stream. Yeah, exactly. I would have had some good Scottish dance music on, but unfortunately, it just know that I'm trying. It doesn't matter because I don't make any money. I'm not monetized on YouTube or that, but it just does copyright stuff. I just can't be bothered with it. And sometimes you would think you can play the tune because a lot of them let you, and then they get ad revenue, but sometimes you just get striked and then everything goes muted. So I don't really put any on. Petehead, Frank, I fully agree. I hear the same remark ever since I visit distilleries, especially Isla. Yeah. Well, that's it. You're going to fish for the people and fun and not for the whiskey anymore. Yeah, because they're just going to rip you off. And it's so sad. Again, it's so short-sighted. And that's what I found when I went to the distilleries in America. A couple of them was the only place I could get the whiskey. So like Glens Creek pretty much was one of the only places I could get Glens Creek whiskey. But Little Book I picked up because it wasn't available in other places that I could see. And that was just at RRP at Jim Beam. But most of them were just like the same price in the liquor store as there. And like, for example, Bardstown Bourbon is the same price at the distillery, is the same price at the liquor store, and was the same price in the UK. So it was just, there wasn't really much point. So I never picked up any Bardstown. I brought back a little Bardstown pack with new make and stuff in it, and I gave it to one of the boys in my whiskey group. Because I'd kept him in mind and bought it as a wee surprise gift for him. Let's see, where were we? Alan. We had the John's theme at our wedding when my wife walked in. I don't know if that's a joke or not, but either way, that's genius. I got married in Spain, and I had to walk out, and the way we were walking out was the Spanish tradition, even though neither of us are Spanish, is to walk the mother of the bride down the aisle and stuff like that, and walk your own mother down. So I walked my mum down and stuff, and then my groomsmen walked down with people and all that kind of stuff, the bridesmaids. And so we got to pick music, and I did was that a Fistful of Dollars? I think it was The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, but it was one of the two. So I that's what I walked out to. Because I was like, spaghetti western that was filmed up the road in the Sierra Nevadas. Why not get this playing some guitar music? I thought it was quite funny. I'm pretty sure it was a Fistful of Dollars because I was making a play on just how much that wedding cost. Yeah, the ensign knew it was great. The next time you visit Edinburgh, you should check out the new system. Yes, I've heard fantastic things about the Belfry. I keep seeing it on Instagram. I keep seeing people in there. So I will. I don't know when I'll next be in Edinburgh, to be honest. I did look at going to AC/DC, trying to get tickets for that for my dad and me. And then I saw the price of the AC/DC tickets on this theme. Just, the world's went mad. The world has went mad. I am not paying £190 to stand at the back of Murrayfield to watch pensioners play guitar. I can't, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can't do it. They've got enough money. Alan, no joke, my wife was in on it. Brilliant. And our first dance was U2. Still haven't found what I'm looking for. Outstanding. I hope you get the reaction that your pals that we get, but I also hope you get the reaction of people just like, what is going on? I was at a wedding, a friend's wedding before, and they asked our friend's band to play the first dance, and the first dance was, sorry, I'm just turning this off a wee sec. The first dance was You Can Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac, and if you know that whole history behind that, even they were like, what's going on here? Are you sure you know what this song's about? But they're still together. They're still going strong. You know, I could, but it was more as like a gift to my dad for his birthday and stuff. I don't know how he would feel about that, standing outside there. And then I mentioned to him last night, I was on the phone to him. Was it last? No, today. I was on the phone to him today. And I said, I've seen this. One of his favourite bands is Nathaniel Radcliffe, something like that. American band. They're playing Bourbon and Beyond. So I was like, you fancy going to Kentucky? And the response to that was similar to my response to paying for AC/DC. He was kind of like, especially when I told him it was like $18 a drink at the festival, which is insane. Right, folks, I need to have another dram because that a lot of talking, not a lot of drinking. But that Four Roses OESO, lovely. 52% was it? 52, 53, 53. Delicious. I am going to go to, as we're in that space of sweet, I'm going to have a wee tiny pour of it just to give a live reaction of the old rip. Let me put that. I'll put that. If I put that there, will this work? Let's see. Can I? There we go. Old Rip Van Winkle. Sought after. Is it worth the money? I've never even noticed that. Look at that. In the bottom written 2023. I got this at DRAMS. You can see the video when I won it. It just, my name came out. And it was this, or it was, this was the last Pappy allocation that they had. And I like the 10. I really do like the 10. Old Britney Spears here. My favourite Pepsi's Pepsi. But age 10 years, 53.5%. 10 summers old. It's for drinking, isn't it? Didn't have a choice, really, to be fair, because they make you open it before you buy it. So different. See, when you're going from that Four Roses to that, the dryness comes in. But if you have that on its own, there's a sweetness to it. It's lovely. Is it worth hundreds and hundreds of pounds? Absolutely not. Of course it's not. I think I paid 107 for it. But I discovered, I was watching its Bourbon night, and if you don't know, like the BTAC range and the Pappy range, Buffalo Trace has put the price up, RRP, so everything's getting more expensive again. And it's a good jump. You're talking like in the US, it's like $50 to $70. I'm going to jump to Alan's and I'm going to come back to you, Craig. But it's your question. Pappy's just a brand. No, it's it was a family, the Van Winkle family, and they had these old casks, and it's one. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but it's one warehouse on the Buffalo Trace property, Frankfurt, and it's the same. It's made at Buffalo Trace. It's just a slightly different mash bill, and it's aged. And it's the age that does it, and they only select certain casks and all that kind of stuff. So yes, it is a brand, but it's just slightly different. So you can make like poor man's Pappy, I believe, with like a Weller and something else mixed. They're like, oh, it tastes just like it. It's just down to the mash bill. I'm going to go up to Craig. Pouring a Knob Creek 12. Yep, so Craig picked him up in America. We were chatting while he was over there. Start opening now. You should be good to taste it next weekend. I know. I've got these other ones to open now as well. And what time are we at? It's already 11 o'clock. Brilliant. Time's flying this evening. Who knew doing a PowerPoint would make everything so much easier? Keep me on track. Lowlander, I thought you weren't supposed to open bottles of Pappy and you meant to put it in your cabinet to show off to your rich pals. Yeah, to be fair, I think if you're back, it's one of those ones, it's tough, isn't it? Because imagine you walk into a shop. It's never going to happen now, but imagine you walked into a shop and you saw a Pappy, say a Pappy 23, that's going to go for a couple of grand. And somebody's like, that's £400, please. If you buy that, and the knowledge that that's a couple of grand, £3,000, the moral quandary is, right, do you sell it? Because it's no worth. 400 quid's expensive for it, but do you become part of the problem by flipping it and selling it? But if you take that profit and buy more whiskey, then you're like, it's circle of life. It's economic. It's the trickle down economy, isn't it? I bought it to drink at a price that I was happy to buy and drink and share out with people, and people have been really grateful when I've shared it with them. One of the guys in my whiskey group, he got the Pappy. it was a Pappy 15, Pappy 20 he got, and he got it at RRP, and he opened it, and it's in the video. It's on the video. It's a DRAM video where they canned Pappy 23 with soda. And he was pouring it out, and we drank it, and it's nice, really woody. The 23 to me is unpalatable. I don't like it. It's just the wood. Bourbon's not meant to be that age, in my opinion. The 15 is the sweet spot. The 20 was great, but the 15 is the sweet spot. But the 10's great. The 12's great. The Lot B. We tried the rye. The rye's fine. It's just it's a status symbol, isn't it? It's no different to like when they go in movies, Macallan 25 and all that kind of stuff. But it's never going to come back. They're going to keep that product scarce, that Pappy, because the reputation's there. Everybody knows what Pappy is. And it drinks really well. So the reputation is deserved. It's not bad. Technically, that's not Pappy. That's Rip Van Winkle. So that's Van Winkle. And the 12, the Lot B, is Van Winkle. And you don't get Pappy until 15. But it all falls under Pappy. Everybody just calls it Pappy. So in my other notes, I'm getting better at this live streaming game. I've learned that you really should have to just take notes. I mentioned that we were going to do state of bourbon and state of scotch. So we know these tariffs are coming in. We know that bourbon sales are going down in the States. I think everything is going down in terms of anything of want versus need. The need state's never going to change, but I think the disposable income is becoming tighter for everybody. We're all feeling the pinch. So you kind of, what do you need versus what do you want? So we're seeing a downturn in that. Bourbon's going through that. They're a different market. They're a huge country, right? Huge country. It's a continent. It's not even a country. It's a continent versus us here on an island versus even Europe. All the different countries in Europe. We just don't, the scale of what they deal with over there. And so when it bites there, it's a different kind of bite. And especially the bourbon buying, these chase videos that we're watching, they're coming from people in the central belt. You know, like, I say the central belt of America as if it's like Lark Hall in Glasgow or Bathgate. But it's more California, New York, these states, these very powerful economies on their own. We're never really caught up in that bubble as such. They do have whiskey stores and all that kind of stuff, and that's great. It's more in the middle where you're starting to see a slowdown. So I looked at the numbers in whiskey, and we're seeing Brown-Forman. We'll just touch on Brown-Forman. Brown-Forman doing what they did to Glenglassy. I can never pronounce that distillery. Where they've kind of shuttered it, mothballed it for a couple of years. And then Ben Riach merging the team there so they can kind of keep producing something just to keep it running over. But Brown-Forman laid off a lot of people in the States. MGP, I mentioned, are going through a lot of stuff. Everybody's cutting back. And it's the time of cuts, and everybody's fearful of their jobs. And it's part of the reason why, in general, I don't like to shit on whiskey. Like, even if I don't like it, doesn't mean it's bad. There is some inherently bad whiskey, I'm not going to lie, but I had an interesting conversation with somebody on Instagram who works at a whiskey company that will remain nameless, but they'd seen something where somebody who also works in whiskey was shitting on a brand, and they were just like, what are they doing? Why would you do that? Because everybody's just trying to get on with a job. Everybody's trying to do something, and we're not that precious that you hold firm to it. So I've started to sidetrack, I started a new series of For Me or No For Me. And that's the ethos of it. It's not about like, I don't like this, therefore it is bad. It's I don't like it. Okay, so like that's it. You might have the same palate as me, or you might not. But for me, it's no for me, or oh, it's for me. Like the Four Roses, OESO. I know loads of people that wouldn't drink that. It's too sweet. Doesn't mean it's bad. I like it. So it goes both ways. But bringing that back about the conditions of the industry, I had a look. There was big news the last couple of weeks about Diageo selling off Guinness, because Guinness is flying. And then their deal with LVMH for distribution in France ended, and they were talking about maybe selling a stake in it and blah, blah, blah. So they released their earnings, their projected earnings for the year, and it was really interesting going through it. Guinness is going great guns, making them loads of money. Every single market, bar Eastern Europe, Scotch was down. Demand was down. And we're talking about Johnny Walker. Now we're talking about Asia, we're talking about India, everywhere. Scotch, Johnny Walker went down. And that doesn't happen. Johnny Walker's like it's not so big it's weird. Johnny Walker's a weird one because it's not big in the UK. There's like people have been surveyed and don't realise Johnny Walker's from Scotland. But to see that global slowdown of that, there's a problem. And I think that's where earlier on my impassioned plea of can we get ourselves together and do something proper in Glasgow. Like I don't understand, like Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Inverness. Just start doing stuff. Start getting people involved. Start getting people excited about whiskey. It can't just be the pursuit of us. Like we'll die, and then it dies with us. It's just Alan saying, I'd like to see these down figures with the COVID years remove. Yeah, COVID, the spike. But the problem is COVID has skewed everything. Now, I'm guilty because I got involved in COVID. It was a great opportunity for me to deep dive. I'd always wanted to. And I actually found some videos. I've got a hard drive plugged in here that I found before COVID, a couple of years before, in my whiskey collection. And my now wife, but my girlfriend at the time, had bought a wee bar cart. We had the bottles on it, and there's a Scallywag, and there's a Yamazaki Distiller's Reserve and whatever on it. And COVID helped me turbocharge my experience because I had time to sit and do all the stuff, and if we all did, and I was buying because I had disposable income because there was nothing to spend money on and all that. But the flippers and then companies get greedy, and that's when we saw the prices just go. And I've made this series I'm making, like the for me or no for me, and I'm opening whiskies, I'm trying stuff, and one of the bottles that I referenced, I was like, it's not for me. I'd rather spend save money on a Kalila. Price was about £37, and then I realised you can't get Kalila for £37 anymore. 4 years ago you could. 5 years ago you could. Kalila. So it's just the downturn is frightening. And how do you address it? So everybody's going premium. Everybody's going, we need to go super luxe. They don't drink it. And that's why I think last week I mentioned it, but it was really refreshing to see Glenmorangie or Glenmorangie. I say Glenmorangie. I'm trying to say Glenmorangie because that's apparently how you might say it. But do an ad that's targeted to people that A, would relate with the celeb in the ad, but B, would drink the whiskey. They're no trying to go after a new audience. They're doubling down and they're saying, look, you might buy a bottle a year, but let's watch this. And you might be influenced to buy 2 bottles a year. And what does that do? It doubles sales. It's not difficult. You just need to convince someone, instead of buying just the 1 bottle of Glenmorangie or Johnny Walker a year, make it cool, make them feel involved, just drink more, buy another one. You can't tell people to drink more, but you can encourage them. So we've not seen that for a long time. Everything's been about going after new people. The new people only coming. And you've alienated so many other people. And I'm talking about tons of whiskey brands. So what now? So it's a bit of it's an amber warning at the moment. I wouldn't say it's red. I think there's so many great young whiskey brands, and by young I mean like last 15 years, distilleries and stuff that have opened up. But there's a lot to be learned from the bourbon experience of just get them to buy the bourbon, get them to buy the whiskey, get them to drink it however they want. Doesn't matter, just drink it. Versus this, let's make the average price of a 21-year-old whiskey 150 quid. Like, what's going on? When did that happen? Like, that's mental. For what? Well, costs are going up. It's 21 years. It's been sat there for 21 years. The price, it was produced 21 years ago. But you're not here to listen to me rant about that. Well, you probably are. Right, with those words, the Johnny Walker experience suddenly gets in a completely new meaning. Yes, they do. Never shared and tasted as many different whiskies as during the COVID years. Exactly. It was we have to look at it. I look at that period as a gift. It was awful. It was awful. And I wouldn't want to go back to it. But there was it was different. It just felt different. Obviously, the weather controlling satellites kicked in and gave us perfect weather and all that. I don't believe that. But we had time for the first time, I reckon, in our lives to just kind of go, what do we want to do? The amount of people that started to make banana bread, you know. I got into whiskey and I remember it. I remember it was in here, my mind being blown because I was getting into it, and then I got a Carnmore Ben Nevis, and it smelled like bacon fries. I couldn't believe it. It finally all clicked into place. It all made sense. I put the videos are on my channel from during that COVID period. They're under Chiefs. We had an X. I was there before Elon. And I was trying to do whiskey review videos with just what I had, because I just wanted to make videos. I wanted to do something creative. But that was the tipping point where I went, oh my God, what a world. I need to do more of this. So I am grateful for that. Should we expect it to make an appearance in the next Indiana Jones film yet? I don't think he's doing any more films. I saw him the other day on This Morning, giving a birthday shout out to Alison, and he could barely talk. He's an old man. He's a very old man now. In the grand scheme of things, life's caught up with him. But those ads, I think those ads are fantastic. I had a comment on the last live stream from someone that watched it saying, no, I don't agree. That's absolutely fine. You're allowed to. We can disagree. We live in such a diverse world now that it feels like everything needs to be, oh. That's fine. I think they work. I think they're really good. I think they're going to encourage people to buy more whiskey. No new people, but they'll encourage people to pick it off the shelf. And I've got a bottle coming tomorrow that I bought. Can we talk? Right, we can sidetrack now. I never thought I would drink a cocktail being an old grumpy northern fart. Tried an old fashioned. It's such an easy sipper. Beautiful. Craig, exactly. That old fashioned, right? See, you're in Kentucky. Every single bar, every single distillery prides themselves on their old fashioned. Every single one of them. Oh, just had the light go out. It's fine. Don't worry. They all want to make the best old fashioned, and guess what that does? People buy more whiskey. And we don't have anything similar in Scotch. Jameson is now synonymous, and it took them a long time. It's taken them a long time to do it, but they've done it. Jameson ginger beer and lime, or Jameson ginger ale and lime. I think it's ginger ale and lime. Is known. Younger generations all know it now. They all know it, and it's taken a long time, but that's the serve. And Johnny Walker have went after Johnny Walker and lemonade, and I don't think that's the right move, because it just doesn't roll off the tongue. JD and Coke. Jameson ginger ale and lime doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but they went for it. they went for it for a long time. But you can make something a bit nicer. I think with Scotch, you can do stuff. And there's Lioness Bar in London. It's been in documentaries and movie films and all that about whiskey. They do phenomenal stuff. Seed Library. There's some phenomenal cocktail bars in London that do great stuff with Scotch. It always feels weird seeing Scotch. But aye, they do really amazing stuff. Let's see. I'm going back up. Alan, guess, depends where in the States bourbon is matured with reference to age. Yes, it does. It's all about the weather. It's all about the climate. Texan whiskey matures really quick. Kentucky has very similar. Well, Kentucky's weird. It has mental winters, and super extreme summers. So it's just. So you can imagine what impact that has on casks compared to Scotland, where it's a bit more. You know, we don't have, well, we never used to, mad drops in temperature. P-Head, possibly milk and honey will see their export grow. We'll just move on to the next one. Craig, true the Texas bourbons mature quicker? Yes, exactly. That's what happens there. And then we'll come here. Alan, I suspect not this year, but over the next few years will be consolidation of the new distilleries and IBs. The big boys might just go a bit quieter and evaluate. Yeah, it's hard to predict what they're going to do. Edrington are doubling down on Lux. I've seen that the Competitions Commission are holding up the sale of the famous grouse to Grants because they worry that maybe Grants will have too much of the market of that blended malt. But what have they got? Edrington now, they've got Highland Park, Macallan, Glenrothes. They've reintroduced Glenrothes to the market at a stupid price, in my opinion. And they've done none of the marketing to warrant it. They've just upped the price. And that's it. Highland Park, they've rebranded, which I think was a good move. Because I think the branding, the Viking element of it all just went a bit too. I couldn't work it out. I didn't know where to start with Highland Park, so I don't drink a lot of Highland Park because of how messed up that branding was, and I didn't know what I was having. So I like the new minimalistic approach to it. But then I saw a video that stated they thought that in turn would mean that they're going to sell Highland Park off because it was in line with another. I think it was Suntory. Was it Suntory who had a stake in it, and then that partnership's ended, but it would align with them and they'd get rid of that. But the problem is Macallan, they've ran their name into the ground. Like, who's buying Macallan? Genuinely, like, amongst us. But maybe it's just an echo chamber of like whiskey drinkers going, why are you paying that when you can get the Signatory Macallan for 45 quid? So you've got all that going on with the big boys. I mentioned what Diageo's facing. I've mentioned I'm trying to think of some of the other big whiskey producers. Brown-Forman obviously kind of cutting people and doing what they're doing. It's interesting times. Pernod Ricard have been quite quiet during it all, but I was thinking about this the other day. Glenlivet. When was the last time you saw anything for Glenlivet? And that made me think, well, does that mean, have they pulled back on Scotch? Are they just quite happy to, like, tide over? And if so, then they're probably in a position where they're okay because they've no spent millions on marketing. So it'll be interesting. And then independent bottlers, you've saw the kind of fallout. I've mentioned it before. Signatories rubbed up a lot of people the wrong way with their pricing of those 100 bottles, but I don't think from a selfish point of view, no rubbed us up the wrong way. It's been fantastic for us. We've been able to drink amazing whiskey for under 50 quid. A friend of mine phoned me the other day and he was at the Whiskey Exchange in London, at London Bridge. He goes, I'm in here. Sorry, never phone me, text me. I'm in here. Apparently they know you. And I was like, that's my local whiskey shop. So I would hope so. I've done charity tastings and stuff in it. Was there anything I should get? Because he's moved into a new office and his boss and stuff, and they wanted a bottle for the office. And I said, well, help me. And he goes, I've got 80 quid. Something with maybe a bit of peat or something in it. I'm like, oh God, I don't know. And then I went, see if they've got a secret Orkney HP Signatory 100. And they did. And it was like 45 quid. There you go. He takes it back to the office. He sends me a picture and I said, have you seen the... I said, did you see the percentage on it? Oh my God, you try to kill us? And I said, no, I'm just... Help me out. Help me out here. So you've got a bit of that going on with a bit of argy-bargy. The consequence of inflated barrel prices, people paying for it. Signatory not. They're long game. So more power to them. What can you do? You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm just scrolling through the comments here. I really should, if I move that over here, I can see that much better. Lowlander, absolutely some of the new one-man band. Sell off their stock and change careers. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if Diageo will be picking up anything anytime soon, to be fair, but I say this on the streams of the time. Diageo are an easy one to target, right? And you can hit. And I can understand why, but at the same time, they still own the distilleries that make the whiskey that we fucking love. That Ben Rinnes 100, that Signatory 100, you know, that spirit is Ben Rinnes. That's owned by Diageo. That's phenomenal. Everything's trickled down. Everything's in place for a reason, and that's why I'm 2025 especially. I'm not shitting on things anymore, and it's very easy to do. There's loads that you could go after, and you can say, like, it's not about survival. It's about like, how can we push on? How can we all support each other through this? The wheat sorts itself from the chaff, or whatever you say. Like, it will filter itself. The market will filter itself. It'll correct, and it'll hopefully land and not survival of the strongest, but it'll be a case of, this is good, I will buy this. And I think you're seeing it with like Ardnamurchan are doing fantastic. Glasgow doing fantastic now. You're going to see more of that, I think, this year. And I'm just seeing the chat here like about the consolidation. I absolutely think so. I think so. Lowlander, if my old office allowed alcohol in the premises, the entire office would be KO'd by the end of the day. Yeah. My work, not so much drinking in the office. We have a Friday drinks trolley if people are in the office. But yeah, my career is in advertising. So it's a very thirsty industry. I heard a rumour of Diageo picking up a certain hip blender. Oh, you'll have to tell me that, Alan. That's news to me. That is absolute news to me. I know that they have their, like, what's it called? It's like an investment arm where they pick up, because like they've done Starward and I think Kanasuke and stuff like that fall under Diageo. Several of the Diageo distilleries produce fab. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Frank. And I think that I could easily see how I would fit. I'm like the needy girlfriend or boyfriend. I can fix them. No, bro, I can fix them. You could, and I think maybe it's a case of just stepping back and taking the hit. So it seems like they're already taking the hit. Sales are down in Scotch. How would I course correct? I would take the special releases. I would step back. I would strip the branding. I would remove the cartoonish and whatever. But the problem is, this is coming from a whiskey, like, lover, geek, enthusiast approach. I would strip it all back. I would just go cask strength, cask, certain cask type, done. And that's my output for that year. and I would make it with the branding, maybe something a little bit, maybe I'd limit the amount of bottles or whatever. But the reality is that if previously, up until we're seeing this downturn, those bottles sell. Loads of people buy those bottles that we don't buy. And we saw the sell-off at Christmas time on Amazon in the UK of a lot of those special releases bottles. But I would do that. I'd go Flora and Fauna, but cask strength. And we would buy it if it was priced the right price. They can absolutely absorb the cost of it. Again, it's about filling the funnel, capture as many people at the top, and eventually we just need more people coming in. We need more people coming in. I thought Beyonce might have done that with her Sir Davis and bring in new people to whiskey, and then she priced it at just a stupid price. But that's LVMH. That's them doing that. There's opportunities. It's just about how you play it. It's a bit of a strange one. Hopefully SMS will follow Signatory's price point. Doubt it? Yes, I doubt it as well. There's another one where the price just crept up and crept up and crept up. I've got a 19-year-old. Two bottles, two sister bottles. I don't know if it's same cask or sister casks or whatever of Loch Lomond. And the one I've opened is amazing, and I know the other one will be probably just as good. 19-year-old Loch Lomond, I think they were 75 quid each when we bought them. What they charging now for 75? Like, I've got membership. I just don't buy anything anymore. I just don't. There's no value. There is no value in me going blind buying these bottles. And now they'll put out these Macallans and they've upped the price on that, and they make you buy a set and all that kind of stuff. One of my favourite Macallans I had was the next Bourbon Cask Macallan from SMWS that cost me 75 quid. I think it was a 14-year-old. No getting that now. I'm going making sure I've not missed any of your comments, guys, because I appreciate you being here as always. As always, especially on a Saturday night. This is a typical drinks whiskey type of thing. Why go when more people are likely to be in? Cannot see SMWS ever going backward price wise. If they could level out, that would be a win. Yeah, problem is there's shareholders now. There are shareholders and they need profit, and that's all that matters. The people that work in the offices there are doing the best they can. I'm sure they're trying their best, but when it becomes a numbers game, it gets really difficult. Really difficult to go back, and that's probably what's happened to Brown Foreman, probably what's happened to Diageo, LVMH. We've not touched on it. I've not said it yet. I'm going to say it. I'm assuming that you guys are active on maybe Instagram and in the whiskey space. Did you know there's a new Ardbeg coming out? Put that there while I fill up my glass. Right, we've done that. I'm going to go for this fantastic Booker's, which is a 2022 02, 62.4, 7 years, 1 month, 7 days. I got 2 bottles of this. This was on offer at Harvey Nicks last summer, and I got John Paul a bottle as a thank you for being just such a good sport on the trip, and to start building up his budding whiskey collection. Let me just maybe do the wee pop in. Oh. So Booker's is one I've always seen sitting on shelves, and again it's been price prohibitive. I'm not sure. I had no idea it was Jim Beam's, even though it says on it Jim Beam, and the whole story of Booker No and all that. I like their releases. I like what they do. They're consistent with it. Again, maybe a learning we could take and move on. Yeah, the Enigma, 72 quid, but it contains PX. I am out. I figured you would be, Frank. I figured you would be. And yeah, it's meant to be 85, 75 quid. Yes. My gripe is it's been everywhere. And I saw, so obviously the PR agency sent it out to loads of them. Of the influencer crew, let's call them. The DRAMS squad on Instagram. And only 2 of them said it was an ad and paid for. And no one said anything bad about it. And I hate it. I hate it when that happens. It really frustrates me. It really frustrates me. Because the PR agency, I'm sure, would have said say ad. Or maybe they've not asked them to say ad. I don't know. Just really frustrating. I was going to put in the thumbnail for this on YouTube a bottle of Ardbeg as a joke, but I'm not rising to the levels. Right, again, Booker's IB brand, not a distillery. No, Booker's is a distillery. It's made at Jim Beam. So Booker Noah is like Jim Beam's grandson, I think. And then you come down and you've got Freddie Noah and then Freddie Noah. Fred Noah and Freddie Noah, who are part of the Jim Beam legacy. And this is what I mean about the bourbon trip. You learn so much and you go, oh my God, man, this all makes sense. We get the bastardized version of amazing American whiskies. So Jim Beam, white label, it's just cheap bourbon, isn't it? It's not very nice. Jack Daniels number 7. Well, my teenage years damaged that brand for me. But then when you move up and you start to taste the actual whiskey that they're making, not the fodder. Jack Daniels 12, I tried last year. Still sits with me. One of the best whiskies I had last year. Unbelievable. Jack Daniels 10. Step down. Still fine. Nothing like number 7. Nothing. The Jim Beam, this Booker's, so Booker's Little Book, Knob Creek Jim Beam. There's quite a few of them. Just lovely, really good whiskies. And when you go to Jim Beam was, again, it's on the video. You've got the statue of Booker sitting on his rocking chair with his little dog, and you've got the restaurant that's phenomenal, and you've got the statue of Jim Beam himself. And you drive in, and John Paul's enthusiasm in my video just powered me through it all. It was just so much fun. These places make great whiskey. It's just, unfortunately, price prohibitive. You're paying, like, on average, a bottle of Booker's, what, 70, 80 quid? Are you taking that gamble? James, cheers, David. Is that the Lumberyard batch? I think it is. Yes, it is. It is indeed. It actually is indeed. It's lovely. It's really, really good. A little bit green, a little bit vegetal on the nose, which again, for bourbon, are you finding that? Yeah, but the DRAMS squad on Instagram have not, because they've been sent tons of it. I'll be honest, the Ardbeg Bizarrebarbecue, fantastic. And I'm really hoping this new one, this Enigma, whatever it's called, is in that same wheelhouse, because I think for value that was great. Ardbeg Wee Beastie I've had. I'm really not a fan. Ugadal, I like. Korvekken, I've tried, I don't mind. But I just struggle with it because of the price and the people that are shilling it. Because they're shilling it. I don't see... I think part of what I'm annoyed about at the moment is I'm not seeing honest opinions. I'm just seeing, like... I'm saying... Contradicting myself. I'm saying don't say bad things for the sake of saying bad things, blah, 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 blah. But I'm just seeing people with unopened bottles shilling stuff. Imagine me being like, yeah, this is the best last thing ever. Aye, sure it is. Have you tried it? It's not opened. But I'm not here to bitch. I'm not here to bitch and moan. About 10 minutes on offer at Sainsbury's, still good value for money. Yeah, I've heard that. I saw one of Roy Aquavita's where he tried it and he was like, yeah, it's still holding up. But I struggle as well. I'm a wee bit with Alan on this. It's no getting my attention the way it used to. If even Frank's agreeing, then we know. You know, Petehead, other bottles I might buy are the 10 and the Corrivecan. I was lucky to get a Corrie on auction for under 50 quid. Yeah, fine. I got the Ugadal when lockdown, one of the first waves. It wasn't finished, but waves lifted, and we went to Crete, and I got it at Gatwick for like £45. Bought it, and that was my whiskey on holiday, which probably was the wrong whiskey to take to Crete and sit on a really beautiful, sunny, hot climate at night drinking that. But it'll live with me forever. That will always be the whiskey of like coming out of lockdown, then going back into another one. Let's go through comments. Definitely no. There's special releases these days, and saying that, I managed to get hold of their 8-year-old Discussion whiskey auction for under 40 quid last year. I had a bottle of that before, and it sat with me for 2 years, and I punted at auction, and I think I got 55 quid for it. Because I was just like, when am I ever going to open this? So Lowlander, that's fantastic to know that I made my money back. How was it? Is it enjoyable, or is it an under 40 quid whiskey? That'd be nice to know. James has got a Springfield batch out. I appreciate you joining. Cheers to you. They're just good. The Booker stuff is different. It's a very different profile from the other whiskies going on, the other American whiskies that we've got here. And James, I'm assuming you've joined late. I've had the Four Roses single barrel strength OESO. I have had the Rip Van Winkle 10. I've had Buffalo Trace Kosher, the Wheat Bourbon, and now we're on the Bookers. It's been an all American bourbon night. I do have that Larceny open. If I don't, I'm going to have the Pursuit United next. I don't know if the Larceny will get opened, sadly. But the new series of For Me or No For Me, now we've got a reason. Greg, I'm a Lafroig fan over the Ardbeg. Hopefully they won't go the same way. But is that a palate thing? Because I don't mind, like, for me, my favourite Lafroig, and I've not had much, I'll be really honest. There's people in my whiskey group that are massive frog heads. I like the quarter cask. You know, like that's where I'm at. The 10 and stuff, just a bit too medicinal. It's nice. I'm happy for what I paid for it. I don't know what the RRP was, and I'd pay that price for it. Well, that's really good. Which kosher? The kosher I had, Alan, was the bourbon, the wheat recipe. I had credit on my credit card, like an offer at Harvey Nicks, and it was like £36. So I was like, give me it. There's an excuse. I think 2 years ago on the ferry to the UK, I managed to buy a litre bottle of Ardbeg, I know, for 27. Yeah, perfect. That's it. It all comes back to this. This is what we're talking about. You can tail whiskey, absolutely, certain price points for certain AGs, certain liquid quantities, etc. We can all go there. We're not saying don't do that. What we're saying is don't start charging stupid money for young liquid. Whiskey's about sharing and indulging and engaging. And I say that with that rip. Like, I've had maybe, I would say I've drank about that much of that, and the rest has been shared with people. You want to, that's the point of whiskey. It's to be shared. It's great. It's a social lubricant. It brings people together. It gets people talking. all we're doing is all these brands just coming in with that price. And I think, again, I'm going to come back to the Glenmorangie advert. That advert, he drinks the 12, which used to be a 10, and he drinks the 18, I think, in it. I don't know how much the 18 is, but the 12 I paid $27.80 for on Amazon yesterday, and it's coming tomorrow. And I'm quite excited to have it. I've not had it for ages. And by excited, I'm not like, oh my god, I'm really excited, it's going to be the best whiskey ever. I'm excited to see if they back it up, because the advert's so good. I'm excited to see if the liquid is going to be for that price. They're charging in supermarkets. My local supermarket's 40 quid for that bottle, which means they're going to drop it. When it goes that high, they drop the price. We need good juice out in the world. We need more people to buy it. We need the price to be the price it needs to be for them to buy it. Quarter cask at Costco for 28 quid before lockdown. Is that Lefroy? Yeah. I love the quarter cask, and I'll never forget. I bought it on Amazon the first time I had it during like either Black Friday or Prime Week or something, and it came, it was smashed. I could smell it, and they sent me another bottle of it, and it was brilliant. Have you tried Lefroy 10 cask strength? I've tried one. I do not ever need the regular 10 in my glass anymore. Yeah, see, that's my problem. When there's such a disparity between your cask strength and your regular 10. What are you doing? Again, what are you doing? Because you're not going to buy that cheaper liquid anymore, so you're only going to buy that, but you're not going to buy as much of that cask strength as you would regular. So say, I'm assuming, let's go off the bat, 70 quid cask strength, 30 quid regular. But what if you just brought it down, made it a wee bit better? 35 quid for your regular, still 70 for your cask strength. But you can churn more sales. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm not in these offices to understand, but I do need to get myself around some more liquid. Like Highland Park, I am so undereducated on. Lefroy, the exact same. There's so many brands that kind of hide in plain sight sometimes for me. I did manage to bag a stag. Are they doing the Nichols and Perk? Are doing it this week? I saw that they're doing the ludicrous around the world premium selection for like 990 quid. That includes it. But to be fair, I can see what you're saying here. 120 quid. Thought it was a bit steep, but the only chance I had this year. But 120 quid for a stag, that's no steep anymore. We're probably about 100 to 110. I say it would be the new going price, sadly, for stag. So a select, that's really good. For anybody that's not had stag before, it's really rare it's a miss. It's normally a hit. I've got a few of them in there. I've got a hazmat that Milroy's did, which was over 70% proof, which is mental. It's just they're delicious. I did it at the charity tasting at the end of the year last year, and that was a combination of like 4 whiskey drinkers and the rest were non-whiskey, and a lot of them managed to actually drink the stag at over 60%, which was amazing. Doubled in price. See what I mean? Like everything just no, I'm not ranting. I'm not going to rant. It's not your fault, Craig. It's not your fault. Don't mean this in a bad way, but I cannot think of many better starters for your palate than the Glenmorangie 1012. No, I've heard that. I know that Roy has mentioned that as well. It's just a very clean, good one. So that's why I've bought it. So when I was getting into whiskey, and buying stuff off Amazon and just trying to like work my way around it. I bought a couple Glenmorangies. I bought the Lasanta. I didn't really like this Lasanta. I bought the Quinta Rubin before they changed the age. I think it was 12. Now it's 14. I think. Maybe it's the other way around. And it was in a black, it had a black label at the time. I loved the Quinta Rubin. Loved it. I thought that was phenomenal. But I've never ever had just a standard bottle of it. And I think this is part of the like whiskey scene, is sometimes we just skip things and we jump over it. And so I'm like, this year I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to roots. I'm going to try stuff. I'm going to see, is it for me? Is it no for me? And that's why I'm doing these videos. And there's some videos coming out the next week or so that I've, for the first time ever, I've locked. They're in the bag. They're scheduled. They're done. They're coming out. But I'm trying stuff that maybe I've not had for a long time. And I have to assess it fairly. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, would I drink this? Where would I drink it? Would I enjoy it? Because sometimes it's easy to come down to here where it's like a specialist cave of just like delights and all that. But sometimes you're maybe in a bar and you just want something to drink. So that's good to know. I am genuinely looking forward to getting it tomorrow to try. Certainly looks like Buffalo Trace are getting serious about dropping a little extra away. Yes, they are. From what I can hear, from what I've heard, there's some stuff going on. There is a great story though. Milroy's of London have a single cask of Buffalo Trace, and I believe Royal Mile have it as well, a different one. Buffalo Trace Buffalo Trace in the States is 45%. Single cask is 45%. That's what they put it out as. It's not cask strength, but it comes out at 45%, and yet Royal Mile and Milroy's both got ones at 40%, and everybody was like, hold on a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Why, like, single barrel 40%? But that's our supermarket fodder. And it basically happened at source. They ballsed up really badly. Somebody misread it. They saw like UK and just assumed, oh, we need to make this 40%, and made it 40%. Put a sticker on it and did everything and sent it, and it came and they were like, this is 40%. But they're selling it, so you can buy it. 40% single barrel Buffalo Trace. But there is a lot of movement, and I think it is because you missed it earlier, James. We were talking about trades and trade tariffs and all that, and the EU is likely to put a 50% tariff on bourbon and blah blah blah, but we're not in the EU, so we might get a wee benefit off the back of it. We'll wait and see. And yeah, I did pick up a Foursquare with it. Did they make you pick up a Foursquare with that? Was that like, did that have to happen? And I need to just come back up. Yeah. So let's talk about Glenmorangie. I agree. I still recommend it to folk who are new to whiskey, especially when it's on offer. Yeah, I am. The Harrison Ford effect has definitely worked on me, because it's finally given me the tip to do it, but I've been waiting because I assumed marketing campaign, then you're going to do price promotion for me to buy it at a price that's going to work. I'm sure they did. Did they give you the 15% off as well for this weekend? Because I might have to phone them up tomorrow and see if we can push it. We've only got live at the moment. I can see how many people are live on this stream. Not a hell of a lot, so I don't think the phone lines are going to be jammed tomorrow. Normally pick up quite a lot of views the day or two afterwards, so we can maybe slip in. That's absolutely obscene. That's 62.4%. Absolutely dangerous juice. Saved on the rail ticket though. Yeah, you did. Aye. I looked at going to Bristol. For that. Oh God, that's gone. For that whiskey festival today, and the price of one-way ticket to Bristol on a Saturday, the day before, was like 65 quid. And I was like, what? And I forgot for a brief second. I forgot that I lived in the UK, and that rail transport is powered by gold, and therefore you have to pay the price. So I didn't go. And then I looked at, could I take a bus? And spend 4 hours on the bus to get to Bristol. And then I was like, what am I doing? So it's mental. So yes, up to Stourbridge for Nickel and Perks. Absolutely mad. Frank, always appreciate you tuning in. All your support. Thank you so much. Cheers. Guys, we've got another 7.5 minutes left. At this point, thankfully, I've run out of rants. Anything topical to discuss, but I'd love to know let's keep it positive. What are you looking forward to the next couple of months? We've got a couple of good releases coming and all that. Is there any trips planned, any festivals, anything that's exciting? The main one for me would be, I'm waiting on this new local barley, but I'm a bit bated breath. I don't know how I feel. 2 years ago, the local barley, Springbank local barley, I tried, got a bottle, I tried. It just wasn't for me at all. It just didn't sit with me. Then last year's one came out, and I loved it. And it's on the shelf. There we go. There. Right there. And I've got a bottle in the house. Because what I did was I took the year before and swapped it with somebody for that year. I think they thought they could make more money on the year before or whatever. Fine. But I've got a backlog of that. But that yin and yang experience of the local barley. So I'm a little bit hesitant this year. I'll still buy it. And I can always do the same again. Lowlander is saying that he is excited about Fife and Independent Spirits. The Independent Spirits Festival is one it's been gnawing away at me to go. And I'm in two minds. It's just finding the time. And I can do it. I can absolutely do it. But I think I can find the time. But Edinburgh on a Saturday night and then getting home to Glasgow, having done the Whiskey Fringe, probably going to have to stay overnight in Edinburgh on that, and then on a Saturday night it's going to cost me stupid money. So I don't know. I really don't know. Fife, I've heard nothing but amazing things, and again, the problem with Fife is it's the commute. Glasgow's a dodo, that's home. So I can always stay with my parents, but it's more Independent Spirits as well will be great because it's just IBs. I'm intrigued about these shirts. What are these shirts? Are they up there with my my Campbelltown bootleg shirts? But no, so you're looking forward to that. Those festivals are coming up. Any bottle releases? So when I went round, the irony was I went round some shops to film a video of the what's on the shelf, London whiskey stores, do all the stuff. And then I thought, I was wandering, I was looking at the shelves, and I was just like, there's nothing here. There's nothing exciting me. Went into Selfridges, Kilkerran 8 sherry cask on the shelf. Bear in mind, this came out not that long ago, 180 quid in Selfridges. And at that point, I just went, I'm done. I can't do this today. I'm not in the mindset. This is going to turn into a horrible video of me just ranting and being angry and stuff. So I put it away, just went round whiskey shops and like, sure enough, there was nothing that was making me excited. And I thought, well, that's a problem. That's a big problem for the industry if we're not getting excited by whiskey. Like, and everybody's pulling back. I'm not at the time yet to watch Roy's video. His VPub from Thursday night. But I think I assume he's going to talk about that, about the buying pattern, and because that's what it's about, how many you buying, whatever. My purchases have just went down. Just not. I'm excited about Glenmorangie 12. That's where we're at. That's where we are. Just do it. Stay in a hotel and leave. Yes, it's easy to say that. So I could do that. I could stay in a hotel and leave and then fly back from Edinburgh. Do that. Probably be wiser. But I've got family in Glasgow, so if I go up to Scotland from London, I normally try and see people. That gives me like double done. But I've got a very young family down here, and it's trying to find the time. So it's very compromised. So when I did the Whiskey Fringe, that's why we were on the road trip. We all came up. Craig, appreciate this. 2025, more signatory, more bourbon, taking a step back and support distilleries and suppliers who have the customer's best interests at heart. Absolutely. And I think we are all, I think that's what I'm saying. We want to buy, we have money where it's available to buy, and we want to buy with people, but we want to buy with people that feel like they are with us. Like, do they meet us where we need to meet? Or are we premium? Therefore, 21-year-old is now 180 quid. Craig, I'm sure I've asked you this before, but just for the context of this, more bourbon because it's something new to explore? Because I've never even touched on that. That's why I got in. I was like, didn't feel like a completed whiskey by any means, like Scotch, but I just wanted something new to go. Alan, I need to start buying more whiskies I love rather than the ones that interest me. Yes, that as well. My whiskey of the year last year was the Kuboken 15, and I loved that whiskey, and I held off buying it until Boxing Day of the year because it finally came down in price. But I do that. I'm the same. I buy stuff in small increments, thinking I'm getting value. Whereas actually, if I don't buy loads of little like crappy things, I could buy something really good that's like full value. Anything in particular? Is there one that's like a whiskey you love that you're like, right, I've got my eyes on? Right, last dram of the night. We have hit midnight. Unbelievable. This Black Glencairn is probably the worst thing I've ever bought. I think I've just put a litre into it. You can't see. PJ and Duncan. That's pretty much filled up to there. Anyway. We'll do an extended version. We'll do another 15 minutes and then bedtime. But fantastic, absolutely fantastic. That Pursuit United. From going from making a podcast to actually bottling your own whiskey to then running an actual distillery downtown Louisville, the absolute dream. The absolute dream. Oh, sorry. Maybe some indie manic more, but mainly good spirit forward, fruity bourbon matured whiskey. I need more fruity bourbon matured whiskey in my life as well, to be honest. When I have it, it's always a delight. I find myself a lot of sherry and now quite a lot of like peated stuff. Got to get more in that space. And I like to check out Whiskey Broker's site. In Cretan, do you ever? Not much info in the bottle, just age and cask. Yes, I got a 25-year-old Aaron from that a couple of years ago, Christmas special, for like, I think it was like 75 quid? 80 quid? It felt like a Christmas present because it had the wee Christmas on the label. He did I think he had like a 17 or 19-year-old Island the other day. But it's such a great site, and hopefully the downturn of like flippers and stuff, he'll put stuff up, and like my whiskey group is extremely online, and so they'll ping and they'll be like, this has came up and that's came up and that's came up. But recently it's been really quiet. And that's why I'm like, there's just no much going on at all. So hopefully we'll see more pick up. Signatory Benrins for me, last one of the night. Bourbon gives me the same excitement that whiskey did 10 years ago. Yes, that's what I got, Craig. Last year, I did my State of Whiskey video in the car. And there was a wee bit of funk. And I went away. And obviously I went to Kentucky and came back. And I was like, wow. Yes, there's more. There's more stuff out there, more flavours, more things, blah, blah, blah. Signatory. This Signatory 100 series, since the irony of them announcing it on the odds was show. And I could never understand why Signatory was seen as this, like, unbelievable independent bottlers, because the Signatory I had up until that point was pretty standard. Wasn't it great? And then out of nowhere, this 100 range came. They said, oh, we're going to go to this 100% proof, bottle it, non-chill filter, natural, blah, blah, blah. And the excitement came back up, which is kind of rare for that experience, and that bourbon excitement as well, because all of a sudden when you go to the States, you're just Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, you just get everything in front of you. Where can you go? Good prices for cash strength, and then I've just put that up, and then James has also said, well, it was good on Signatory for competing. I don't think Signatory had to compete. They bought low, like lower than they're still making money what they're putting out. The taxation, the bottle price, and all that, the margins probably nothing, but they're still making money on it, which is fair play to them. That's what I was getting at earlier. There's a few independent bottlers that are spitting the dummy. And there's always going to be, like, there's a few bottlings that have went out recently, and I say recently, in the last day or two, that I've seen that are they're collecting whiskey. They're not drinking, which is really sad. But it's just price point. I think it was a 72 Lecheg, maybe 82 Lecheg. 72, 82. It was like 900 quid. Like, Who's that for? Who's that for? You know, it's just like, who's like, oh my god, I need to get that one. That's the one that's been missing from my shelf this entire time. I'm going to just splash that on it. But that's a consequence of what it's cost to buy. You know, like that's been discovered recently. It's not sat in a shelf somewhere. I wonder if Signatory's trying to raise capital for some future venture with the low price releases. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to be cynical on what I think they're doing. I think they're genuinely just going, we have a ton of stock that we bought at this price and we took a gamble. They filled their own cask with that liquid. That's so I've been told. And we've took the gamble and it's worked out really well. We're going to come in low, flood the market with unbelievable quality whiskey, and that will just knock out the competitors. And then over time we can just bring it back up, because they still have their Signatory vintage range. They have other, like, they've not went all in on it. They still have other things going on. They've definitely put the cat amongst the pigeons. I think people are just not comfortable with what they've done. I've not seen many. But what they came out November last year, beginning of December, and they came out quick. They bottled it and got that stuff out quick. And nobody's released much since. I think they're all sitting on it because it's just like they'll buy it. Like people will just buy the Signatory. And I feel for the people at the other places, of course I do. But the consumer in me wants low price, high quality. Right, guys. I think we've got to that point of the night. 8 minutes past. Need to check out. Thank you so much for joining. Always a pleasure to have yous. We've got another video, sneak peek, if you made it this far, live. Another one of, for me, or no for me, tomorrow. Which is an interesting one. It was my Secret Santa gift, and it is phenomenal. It's genuinely phenomenal. I've got DRAMS on the run coming. If I can edit it in time. That is coming. But for the foreseeable future, it's going to be a lot of for you or for me, or no for me. It's a conscious decision. I just want to kind of put an effort into growth. And I say growth, and it's no growth, but just getting videos out and being consistent with them and try to get in a routine, because I appreciate that my videos are very sporadic. Normally I do these live streams, even the live streams are sporadic, so I'm trying to just be consistent, build a habit, do that. Please, all the support you can give them, I really appreciate. If it's commenting on them or whatever, I know it seems really silly, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying doing them. I'm seeing a wave of comments coming in, so I'm just going to check them out. Genuinely, the Ben Rinnes ended me. The Ben Rinnes was probably, I've said this a million times, I'll say it again. If that Ben Rinnes had been in October, that would have been the whiskey of the year. The fact it came so late in the year, I just couldn't. The Cuboken 15, loved. Love that Ben Rinnes 15 more now. But there's a couple. I've got a Blair Raffle from them, quite sulphury, You need to leave it open for like 3 months. And then it mellows. Because I had 2 bottles of it. The Secret Orkney, great. Manitmore, great. The, there's one. Let it come back to me. I'll tell you. Craig, always appreciate your support. Tulbarden, 10-year-old, 55 from North Star. Yeah, it's great. That is, if you've not watched it, please go and watch it. So there are more of them coming. I set up a podcast series called DRAMS, and I'm very specific in it, and I'm not putting them out unless they're perfect. But I went for it with Marcos from North Star, and that Tulbarden is about his gran. The tasting notes, and he took his gran to his grandmother, for anyone that's not Scottish, grandmother, to the tasting, and was like, "This is about you." She said, like, "What do you mean? I don't smell like that." It's a brilliant dram, but guys, appreciate it. Appreciate you all. Yep, Glen Talkers, Secret Orkney, and the it's what's the one? There is a signatory Milton Duff. That's it, Milton Duff. Signatory Milton Duff is the one that everybody's been going mental about in my whiskey group. There's only us and there's 7 people watching this right now. Milton Duff, signatory. But guys, as always, absolute pleasure from the Black Lodge. Till the next one.